You're listening to the voice of IWA Flip here on Interfed Radio. In studio today, we have Scott. Scott, you there?
Yes, sir.
Oh, man, glad to have you on, sir. Glad to have you on.
Glad to be here. I appreciate the invite.
Oh, yeah, man. You know what? Just trying to move forward with this Interfed, trying to extend to as many people that'll come on as possible, and especially these two leagues in the bronze that we're going to go over today. Like I said, had to get these leagues some coverage, especially with the new elite title going on. You know, the characters there, you know, have to show some of this, have to shine some light on them, you know?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Obviously, they're two leagues near and dear to my heart, so I appreciate the chance to come on and talk about them.
And just so people know, the two leagues we're talking about, we got the Living Nightmare League and the United Nations League, both run and did you start both leagues, Scott?
No, I did start the United Nations League. That was my kind of brainchild with some help and assistance and advice from a few other sources. That was kind of my idea, my take, my creation per se. But the Living Nightmare League was around before I was commissioner, and there was a commissioner there before, but they had dropped out for whatever reason, I don't even know. And then several cycles of no commissioner, and I came in and I asked the IWA, I'm like, hey, would it be cool if I started commissioning this league? The Living Nightmare League was actually the first league that I started to commission, and so I proudly like to say my first report, the league had 56 matches, not 56 cards, 56 matches. And we built it into a league that was in the top 10 at least the last 5 or 6 cycles. So very much appreciate the managers that are there, that are playing there, that make it a really fun league to be a part of. I love doing the Living Nightmare League, but I cannot take ownership for the creation of that one.
Now, can you take responsibilities for dropping the limit?
Well, the Living Nightmare League, when I came in, was a 4 wrestler limit.
Oh, no way.
And I kept it at 4. That was one of the reasons I wanted to take over, is it had a 4 wrestler limit and no commissioner. So I thought that would be a good league. And the way I view the Living Nightmare League, and I've said this before, is I view it as kind of more fun, you know, like tongue in cheek, like a place that you don't have to be bound by some of the rules that we feel bound by, right? So the Living Nightmare League, you know, Jason and Michael Myers can come out and hack people and cut fans' heads off, and there's no repercussions, right? They just do it.
Let's
the next week they show up, right?
For those managers that don't know, the Living Nightmare League is 18 and over.
Correct. That was a rule that was in place before I joined, and I didn't adjust those rules. Actually, all those rules. The only one I did adjust is I added where instead of that they were mandated to be horror-based monsters, I said that they are encouraged to be monsters or original dark or over-the-top characters. So I wanted to kind of expand that out a little bit. But the 18 and over was there before I was there. The limit of 4 was there before I was there. Wrestlers were not allowed to transfer in. I did get added that new wrestlers may join the Battle Royal for free their first cycle. That was something I added. And then stable initials were not allowed there before I joined, and I kept that as well.
Nice.
So, yes.
Yeah, so one of the things we're talking with a couple other managers is in terms of, you know, places to play that allow for supernatural, allow for, you know, out of the box way of thinking. And I think the Living Nightmare is definitely one of those leagues where, you know, you could go there and comfortably, like you said, tear somebody's head off.
Right. Actually, I'm sure it'll come up, but the biggest heels in the league right now, I would say, are this stable called the Dragons, and they're the Trinity of Tradition. And the reason why they're the biggest heels are because they want to instill, you know, traditional wrestling, and, you know, the Living Nightmare League is evil, and kind of the head of that is Reverend Boswell. and it's like everything is topsy turvy, right? The players that want proper wrestling and are religiously based are the bad guys, and
Nice.
the monsters are the good guys in a way.
Yeah,
right?
I think I read this cycle. I think they were a group of luchadores, right? They're all Dragón Rojo, and all them are all just regular masked luchadores, or?
Correct. Yeah. So it originally was 3, and then they added a 4th one, who used to be a jobber, and that was a good little 2 or 3 cycle arc as well. He used to be a jobber, and then he became a dragon and joined their group, and disavowed the horror of the Living Nightmare League, and it was just fun. It's good stuff. The manager of the Dragons is a great guy, a lot of fun. I really appreciate his contributions.
Now I'm looking down the champions list, and I recognize a couple names. Looks like Foxwoman Santana as.
Yo, Catfish Rob.
Yeah, that's.
You had to tell me like one manager, all-time favorite. Catfish Rob takes the cake. I felt like I knew the Living Nightmare League had made it when Catfish Rob cut off my character's balls. I knew that we had made it. I'm like, this is it. We will never top this. And so what that did, my character disappeared, right? Didn't trash talk for a while. Then he changed his name. Instead of being Dr. Id, he became Dr. Frankenstein. Obviously because he had to replace his parts. And so that created this big arc with him recovering. It was good stuff.
And speaking of Dr. Frankenstein, it looks like he's Living Nightmare number 42's Nightmare Champ, huh?
Yes, correct. I was lucky enough to be at the top of the page, so that's always nice.
Nice.
But yeah, so now actually what's interesting is Foxwoman Santana and Catfish Rob had a feud with Dr. Id, the previously named Dr. Id, and his patients, who are my characters, for about almost a year, like the first 2 pay-per-views, back and forth, trash talking each other, and obviously it culminated with the aforementioned removing of my character's testicles, and a great picture went along with it. It was classic. But now the dragons are so bad that even Dr. Frankenstein and Catfish Rob have set aside their differences to take on the Trinity of Tradition and Reverend Boswell. So pretty big arc that we've been kind of building towards the last, 5 or 6 months. And I think it's going to culminate at our next pay-per-view, aptly named Head in the Box. It's my take on the Money in the Bank. Instead of Money in the Bank, we have a Head in a Box.
Nice.
Living Nightmare. You gotta live it up. So I think that's all going to come to a head at that pay-per-view.
No pun intended. No pun intended.
Yeah.
You're like pun, definitely pun intended.
Yeah. Intended, unintended. Yeah. Man.
Now, in terms of Living Nightmare, you got Commissioner Spike Pratt right there running the show.
Right. So that's the character name I use for that commissionership, and so he kind of stays out of the fray as much as possible. There was an incident with Reverend Boswell where Spike Pratt wrote like a letter addressing the accusations and actions, because Boswell was trying to get the Living Nightmare League closed and taken off of TV and out of the IWA, and so that's kind of the building of that. And so finally, Commissioner Pratt had to address that. But yeah, that's the name I use. Again, he kind of stays out of the fray for the most part. But
now for those of you guys listening that haven't peeked at the Living Nightmare report, I mean, Scott does an amazing job in terms of numbers. I mean, you must really like dealing with numbers, because I kid you not, I thought I did too, but it's just, it's so time consuming. It really is, brother. I mean,
Yeah.
I tried it with one league, and I see you're doing it with a few, and I'm like, holy moly.
Yeah, I'm a crazy person. I commission 3 leagues now, and I do enjoy a good set of numbers. So I think the biggest one in the Living Nightmare League, the rankings really don't take that long once you get used to them. The biggest one for me is the Commissioner Challenge, and the rankings for that. It's this little tiny spot, how many points everybody has, but that takes me a little bit of time, put all that together.
No, but I mean,
I enjoy.
It definitely brings the league into full perspective. I mean, like I said, even with the averages and I mean rankings and everything. I mean, it's just great stuff, man. Really, like I said, I definitely try to mimic as much of it as I could when I was when I had my shot at doing my reports, and I gave up on it so quickly, man. I actually had my girl that was doing that little article. I bounced her into the RWL and just used her as a fighter just to get her out of the damn report.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? You're going that way. Get out of here. Hope just got fired and hired in the RWL. Oh man. So now let's just to give these champions and the people their fair dues and credit. I'm going to go ahead and go over the champions for the Living Nightmare League number 42. We had Nightmare champion Dr. Frankenstein, Paranormal champion Dragon Rojo, Amityville champion Jason Voorhees. What is that? The 13th.
13, yeah.
Crystal Lake patient Y won that championship there. Elm Street champion the Krampus, Black Lagoon champion the Executioner, Camp. Whoa, okay, that one got me. Arwak?
I don't ask me, man.
I was like, where's that one from? Okay, that one got me. Patient Z won that championship. Transylvania championship is Dragon Verde. Haunted Hill champion Foxwoman Santana. Sleepy Hollow champion Acom?
I think it's Acom, because the next one I think is related. Yeah.
Okay, and that's Rizam won the Salem's Lot championships there. Crypt champion Dragon Amarillo. Apocalypse tag team champions Patient X and Dr. Frankenstein. Doomsday tag team champ Patient Z and Patient Y. Slaughterhouse 6-man, running house around here too, huh? Patient X, Y, and Z took that one. And the Nightmare TV 6-man, Pennywise the Clown, Captain Spaulding, and Bosco the Clown.
Yeah. Just to mention Bosco real quick, one of my favorite, it's got to be in my top 5 favorite things that have happened, at least in the Living Nightmare League. Bosco was feuding with Jason, and there was this trash talk where the manager of Jason Voorhees says that he picks up Bosco, and his big clown feet are kicking in the air as he's jumping about.
Just imagining those big red flippers
just his big clown feet kicking in the air has always stuck with me. I mention it because it just cracks me up. And also, the Acom and Rizar are new characters. Unless I missed it, they didn't trash talk this cycle, but I hope to hear from them. They're new this cycle, so that's awesome.
Nice. I mean, and let's put it out there. I mean, ever since the Elite Championship was inaugurated, I mean, a lot of the credit leagues have seen some nice movement, and that's the one thing we're kind of hoping to highlight here on the Interfed radios. These elite leagues that are small roster driven, and just get them their push.
I appreciate it. The elite title was something that was the brainchild of myself and a few other managers, looking for something that the small roster limit league wrestlers and managers would compete for. So it was awesome going back and forth with the IWA for probably a couple cycles before we finally got it, the final approval on that. So it's it's one of those things you feel very good to have contributed. I think it's a cool new thing for the game. The IWA said it was the first new title, I think, since the specialty titles came into play, and that was a while ago. So it's very cool. I appreciate also you highlighting some of those limit leagues, particularly the limit leagues that I think have the greatest opportunity for growth. We were talking about a couple, before we went on the air, and it would be awesome to see some of those other limit leagues, that have good commissioners go in there to see a bump in their activity. So hopefully that helps them.
Oh yeah, no, I think it was a big plus in terms of the IWA, and I mean in terms of managers like ourselves that do have small rosters and trash talk. I mean we're a dying breed around here. So and again it just it goes to show that there are still a lot of managers out there, and hopefully the ones that do come to these leagues kind of go with the flow and join in. And I mean, we have a lot of fun trash talking, so I hope everyone enjoys reading along and following the nonsense that we put out there. But
yeah,
I see it all the time. You get the little I always call them memes or whatever, posters,
yep.
On the Facebook pages, and I love getting reactions. It's like everyone else, it's just like. But then you get that, that 1 p.m. from the manager, and you get, oh man, you're a fool. Like what? Like God, where did you come up with that nonsense? And
yeah.
I love it, man. It just, like you said, we did mention. In our last show, we did mention the Generation Next. That's another one of those limit leagues that we're giving a big push to. The one that we're also mentioning is superhero leagues over in the Jade. I mean, GNL is Iron.
Yes.
GNL is in the Iron. The superhero league in the Jade is another one. Just got its elite, or we're trying to push for its elite. It's 2 cycles of 50? Is that the requirement?
Yes.
Yeah, so
what if you have over 50? You're going to compete for it that cycle.
Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah. So we're making that push with the SHL there and the managers there, and like I was mentioning to Scott, just with these with this new interfed and highlighting these characters, just to get these get the managers that do trash talk, get them some time on air, just to push their angles, because. Everyone does take their time to write, and those of us that are writing, I want to make sure that we're getting a little bit of a time in the limelight, I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, no, it's a worthwhile venture. So that I listened to the MML show, it's very good. The RWL show, very good. Obviously, that's a league. I think we might be mentioning anyway. Now's as good time as any, I guess. That's a league that I recently came in on, the RWL. So, good stuff going there. Hopefully I can contribute to that.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, Sean has some good stuff coming on down the line. Not to blow his surprise, but he does have some, something in the works with the IWA. So I don't want to spill the beans, but he is going back and forth with Kim trying to set something up for the RWL. So I'll let him reveal it when the time comes.
Nice. All right.
And let's see. Let's see here. We also have one more league to go over. It's what I consider another one of the big ones here in the IWA. I mean, like I said, your baby.
Yes. The United Nations League. It's interesting that I would be on now, because to keep it 100. To call a spade and keep it 100. If you were to look at the cards for the first 21 cycles of the United Nations League, the vast majority would be somewhere between 35 and 45, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with the league, around that mark. But just so happens this past cycle, we had a few managers join. We had our bonus scrubs match cycle, and it just went astronomical. I mean, 85 cards is ridiculous. It would be awesome.
Nice.
I mean, and again, like, that's awesome, and I'm really super happy and proud. But you know, to keep it real, most of the time we're around 40 cards. So this was awesome. We recently got I recently got our match deal bonus bumped from every 3 cycles to every other cycle. So I don't know if that helped us at all. And basically what that is every other cycle, if you take a match deal, you can take an additional 20 scrub matches. So basically you get your 20 matches for $12 and then 40 scrub matches every other cycle.
Now for, I mean, obviously the IWA is, huge. I mean, we say it all the time here on Interfed Radio. I mean, it's humongous. For anyone out there, I mean, that is a prospect, a commissioner, looking at commissioning or whatever the case might be. I mean, just so you know, the IWA is pretty open-minded towards what you can do as a commissioner. I mean, if you ask, they're pretty much going to okay it. I mean, unless it's something ridiculous. I mean, they'll let you know. It's like, no, it's got to be at least this much.
Right. Oh yeah, definitely. And that's something else that I've said. And I don't mean to cut you off, but I guess I do mean to cut you off. I apologize. You go ahead.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, just to your point though, I feel like the IWA, they want to give incentives. They want to approve stuff. The prizes listed under the UNL, all I had to do was ask. And I went to them and I said, hey, I'd love to do, bonus scrub matches. And this was, 8 or 9 cycles ago. And I said, here are the 3 ideas I have. And they're like, well, you can do number 2. I'm like, sweet. And if we have over 50 cards, I'd like to give the tag team champions, some UNL credit. Cause, I don't think we've mentioned, the UNL is a 2 wrestler limit. And so I thought tag team champions, right? Nice little play there. I feel like they want to give prizes. They want to help you out. So, to your point, if you're a newer commissioner, don't be afraid to ask. The worst thing that's going to happen is they're going to say, no, you can't do that. Yeah. But I have always found them to be very accommodating. They want to help out because they want to make money, right? That's the business.
That's exactly that. Yeah, you know what? Like, I'm helping out a couple of new commissioners along their first leagues, and I'm telling them just ask. Just keep asking for as much as you can. Every league you commission is like a stripe on your shirt. Because they're like, oh, well, I'm only commissioning this one league. It's like, well, fine. Every cycle that you commission, every time you do a report, consider that an extra stripe. I mean, just keep going with it.
Right, because the more they see, if you stick around 10 cycles, they're going to say, wow, this commissioner, this manager really is doing his part, doing his best, right, to help us make money and make the IWA fun. So if he asks for something, he's more likely to get it.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. I mean, that's like right now with the RWL, I was mentioning to Sean in terms of what he's doing. I was like, yeah, you know what? Just ask for it, man. I just, the worst thing they're going to say is, they're either going to give you another number or they're going to give you another idea, in that ballpark, and
right.
Yeah, if you're a new commissioner, definitely reach out to Kim and the IWA staff. Like I said, they're willing to help you build something nice around whatever you want, pretty much.
Right. Well, and Sean's been doing the RWL for a little while now, right? 8 or 10 cycles.
Yeah, he's had it 10 cycles now. So
yeah,
like I said, like I tell him, I go, and he's never asked for anything at this point. He's just been turning in a report and just rolling with whatever, what was it, 10 free matches they give him.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, and that's the other thing. When I took over the Living Nightmare League, to kind of flip back to that for a moment, I wasn't getting anything extra, right? But after I showed a little bit of, initiative and we got up to 40 cards or so, I was like, hey, I'd really like to make our Commissioner Challenge be 25 pre-matches. It started out at 16. And then we got about 50 cards for a little while. And I'm like, hey, I'd like to have a title where I give away 5 free matches for the champion. Okay, that's cool. You know, and it's like you build on stuff as you build your league, you kind of can go back and say, you know, hey, before I only had 5 free matches. I'd like to make it 10. You know, could we make it 10? And IWA, they want to approve stuff, so they're probably going to say yes.
Oh, for sure. I mean, and like you're saying, I mean, it's funny to say it this way, but kind of like an achievement in a video game. Like, all right, cool. Every cycle you turn in a report, just, you know, consider it an achievement, or everything you're doing for them, you know, just chalk that up to your achievements, and then, you know, use those achievements or stripes as your pull, you know?
Right, to unlock
Exactly.
4 things, right?
Oh man, yeah, exactly. Like, how many tokens does it take? You know, maybe 3 or 4 tokens. You know, how do you get a token? You know, every 2 reports or every, you know, who knows, man.
Yeah.
Like I said, I know the IWA. Like I said, they're willing to help, so reach out to them. Now, to get back onto this UNL, we did mention UNL is a 2-fighter. But it's not just your average 2-fighter league. It has a nice theme to it, which
right. To go along with the United Nations name, right? One fighter is going to be from either the United States or Canada, and then the other fighter is considered an international character and basically anywhere outside of the United States or Canada. So that's the idea there. We've seen some creative plays with that. One of my favorites, I'm sure this manager might come up later. We had a manager join from the Isle of Samoa and then American Samoa. And so, like, one is considered an American territory and one is an independent country, right?
Nice.
But it's like, so tying those 2 characters together, right? But in a way that still kind of fits into the theme of the league.
Okay.
And I will say, we've joked about it before on previous Tubecasts, but I think the UNL had about 7 versions of the long lost family members when we started. You know, like, here's my long lost cousin from Switzerland. And, you know, and so, thankfully, you know, and we all have a good laugh about it now, but, thankfully, the characters have grown, over the last year plus. They are really at this point, a lot of the characters I think are very 3-dimensional. They're very fleshed out. They've grown as characters. I feel like it was almost, and myself included, right? My 2 characters included, were almost sort of cartoony, and now they've really been fleshed out into 3-dimensional characters, which is really cool to see. You had kind of mentioned it with some of the angles that you had done in the MML, right? How these characters kind of flesh out and they grow and they develop, and I feel like a lot of that has happened with a lot of these characters as well.
Oh man, I mean that's our driving force behind this interfed, is to get those characters that you have intermingling, you know, with some of these characters out here, because I mean, with the limit of trash talk that goes into, you know, I mean, the majority of the leagues out there. I mean, obviously the UNL is probably one of the exceptions. I mean, you guys got a pretty good trash talk rapport there, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. On the flip side of the fact that our cards were always very moderate, you know, around 40, maybe even less, the thing that I always touted about the United Nations League is we would have, say, like 10 to 12 active managers, and there would be 10 to 12 managers sending in trash talk, and it would be quality trash talk. It's good stuff. And so when you have, you know, you're having fun with people who are also having fun. So that was always like the biggest thing that I thought was kind of the best achievement of the UNL, was that we had a really good trash talk base. We had good characters, and it was a fun, hopefully, a very fun league to be a part of.
Oh yeah, I'm scrolling through the trash talk now, and I mean, it sounds. I mean, does this sound weird that the more you look through the IWA, you can kind of see some styles that pop out?
No,
Like,
not at
like,
all. I feel like I try and differentiate my characters somewhat, but I feel like my trash talk definitely has kind of a certain way about it, a certain style. I think several of the other managers in the UNL have a certain way that their trash talk is written. Whether you're talking about Jake, Kendall, Tom, Kyle, any of the awesome managers that are in the UNL, Jim. Oh man, Jim is, with his Blazer Corp, some of my favorites across the IWA, right? There's,
yeah, I was about to just say that. I was like, oh yeah, he got some moving throughout, and that's one of the. I mean, I wouldn't consider Blazer Corp a stable. I mean, but in the same sense, like not in the IWA sense, but they are definitely a wrestling stable in the IWA. That kind of makes sense?
yeah, no, definitely. Like they are a group, right? They are a
Okay.
united group. And I think it's cool. I think it's cool that, even though you don't really, see that much intermingling between, like, say, the GNL's Frogger J. Dixon and the, UNL Strongman Tobin Wells, that Jim Blazer is behind both characters, right? And
Yeah.
so that he's kind of the mastermind. And actually he was on one of our covers and I asked the question, is he the most underrated mastermind in the UNL and in the IWA?
Yeah, I would take it as I would say the IWA because he's rocking everywhere. I mean, great trash talk, great angles, great stories everywhere. I mean, everywhere I look, he has some good stuff going on.
Definitely.
And hitting.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Especially, just recently in the GNL, hit big, with several characters. So kudos.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, not to go too far off topic, but I got lucky on that one because, I mean, right now that's my angle right now in the GNL is going after them right there, and he had a amazing last cycle, so I was just kind of like, oh man, I'm gonna I got to go after him, so I took my shot and sure enough, I pulled off the 6-man, and I was like, oh, I beat him by 1 point. I was like, oh yeah, okay, I got something to work off of.
Yeah, I got something. Yeah, yeah.
Oh man.
Well, and I think that speaking about being in a trash talk environment, right? Like you can take that one victory, right, and that can further your story. And so, I think the more you can look to that, the more involved you get, the more invested you are, the more fun it is. So now you can use that 6-man victory to help further along your story.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I think we were talking off air in terms of the unique style the Generation Next League brings to to the IWA, and kudos to those guys. In that same sense, like I said, I want to highlight some of the characters that we have here in the Bronze, through the Interfed, and hopefully we can shine a little more light on characters like Jasper and Strongman.
Yeah. To your point, I think the UNL has really developed a good, solid cast of characters. Vladimir Verklempt, Texas Hick Rick Rancher.
Oh yeah, you know what? As you mentioned Texas Hick. Yeah, those characters like that, you just they got to have some more time in the spotlight, and I said, yeah, we got to get those guys out there.
And Texas Hick Rick Rancher is notoriously hated by several wrestlers and playfully hated by several managers because he wins almost everything. He didn't win our last big event, and it almost felt wrong. It's almost like, wait, he didn't win because he won He won our first big event. He won at the Rumble. He was the first back-to-back league champions. He was the second back-to-back league champions. Like he won the crossover collision event that I did between the LNL and the UNL. And it's like, what isn't this guy winning? Like screw that guy. Why is he winning everything?
Just bringing everything home, huh?
But yeah, just an amazing run for that character. And so, when you talk about different characters around the IWA, I think of Rick Rancher as like somebody as like, say, Naito in New Japan Pro Wrestling, right? Where maybe you don't know that much about New Japan Pro Wrestling, but if you're a big wrestling fan, you've probably heard of Naito. Right. You know what I mean? I feel like Rick Rancher is in that vein. Like Rick Rancher is somebody that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not going to pretend like I follow the UNL cycle in, cycle out. I mean, I glance at it, but I definitely know Rick Rancher.
Right. Yeah, he's got that kind of mass. Not, I don't know, mass appeal isn't the right word, but kind of name recognition. That's what I'm looking for. He's got kind of that name recognition.
Now I'm scrolling down this and I see you got World Warfare 2 coming up. Is that the next big UNL pay-per-view?
It is. The way, so obviously Cycle 21, we're just getting into our second year. So the very first UNL pay-per-view is World Warfare. And what I've decided is that that's going to be kind of our WrestleMania type event. Our big event of the year is going to be World Warfare. So that the second annual version of that will be in January. So that'll be our next big event, and right on time. I feel like we have a lot of feuds that have been simmering that are going to culminate at that event. So kind of our last pay-per-view, the Global's Greatest, was kind of an intermediate type event, kind of like No Way Out used to be between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, right? So Global's Greatest kind of laid a lot of the seeds for what will build into hopefully a very huge card for World Warfare 2.
Nice. Now, I mean, for those people that aren't too familiar with the United Nations League, I mean, you got a heavy tournament action going on here.
Yeah. That in addition to numbers, I also like tournaments.
I would say.
So basically every league that I commission has some version of tournaments running all the time, just because I like them. So if I like them, I'm going to do them. But the United Nations League, I feel like, takes it to a whole nother level, because every cycle another tournament starts.
Now I gotta ask. I mean, are all these matches signed?
Yeah, and that's the craziest part. When I know when I started the UNL, that was one of the things that I asked, and I genuinely think that they did not realize that was going to be like 17 matches every cycle.
I was signing my matches for my shows on the MML.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was sending in about that many also, and for a while they were just I mean they'd get some of them wrong, and I was just kind of like, oh man, what do I do now? Like, I mean, how often do they? Oops.
Really, I will say, I love the IWA. I know they do a lot of data input. I would say, though, that I have only had a couple of times where the matches did not run correctly as far as the global tournaments go. Maybe I'm just in too many leagues, but I would say like every other cycle or every cycle, I have something of mine get messed up that I have to be like, hey, I didn't get my scrub matches, or hey, I think my strat was put in wrong. But the global tournament matches, I don't know if they've ever made more than maybe one or two mistakes. So they run, yeah, all those matches run and play.
Wow.
So yeah, it's pretty fun. I enjoy it. So what you see if you do open up the latest bulletin, the one that was announced is number 20, and those first round matches will take place the following cycle, right? Our next cycle is when those first round matches will take place. So number 19 was announced last cycle, right? The previous cycle in September.
So
And
those are
the first round matches that ran this cycle.
Gotcha.
So it takes, 4 cycles to run. They're announced and then 4 cycles to run. And the best part too, to your point, is that the global tournaments will grow the more managers we have. So if we have 16 managers, there'll be 16 wrestlers. If we have 20 managers, there'll be 20 wrestlers.
Nice.
So these tournaments could get even bigger the more managers we have. So we are at 15 right now. So if we get one more, you'll notice that there are 4 buys in these tournaments now. When they start, those buys will go away, and instead of 12, we'll have 16 wrestlers in those tournaments. So
nice.
Yeah.
And it's just random selections?
No. So they are selected based on the highest strategy, but you can't appear in consecutive global tournaments. So
nice.
if
Okay.
Rick Rancher's in global tournament number 18, he cannot be in global tournament number 19. And what that does is it allows almost everyone to be in every other tournament. So almost everyone will be in a tournament every 2 cycles.
Nice. I mean, yeah, I'm just scrolling down. I'm like, whoa. Now you had finals for 16?
Correct. Valinaria actually won 16 and 14 and 12. So 3 in a row for that particular wrestler.
Yeah, I heard you say Valinaria, women's division in the UNL, or women allowed?
Women are allowed. We only have, I believe, only one. I think Ann Spivey is the only women's wrestler in the UNL at the moment. Let me double check.
So Valin isn't a female.
No.
Oh, okay.
He is a wrestler from India, and actually he's my character. But he's like I liken him to a Kurt Angle type.
Okay. I heard Arya, and I was just thinking, Game of Thrones Arya.
Game of Thrones, I know. Well, and what's funny is I didn't know that was a name off of Game of Thrones until we were like 4 or 5 cycles in. And I think somebody mentioned it in their trash talk. And I'm like, what the heck is he talking about? Yeah. So that's just happenstance, right? That was not done on purpose. So he takes himself very seriously. Was able to join Noble House. Anybody who knows the manager for Noble House, I am a huge fan, and I probably pressed about 4 or 5 cycles in a row. Valin is like, I want to join Noble House. I'm down. I want to join Noble House. And
nice.
Finally, that manager messaged me. He's like, okay, we're going to beat you down 2 cycles in a row. I'm like, cool. I just want to join Noble House. And he's like, I may ask you to beat somebody up. I'm like, dude, I will beat up an old man with a cane, with his own cane. I will do whatever it takes if you let me join Noble House. So pretty fun. Good stuff.
Oh yeah, I love that manager too. Like I said, he comes at me, hey, do you mind doing this graphic? I go, oh dude, anything, brother, whatever you need, whatever I can help you make your time here a little more exciting. Yeah. I'll gladly do it, brother.
But
now the Noble House guys there in the UNL, did he take the same cast over or?
No, they're different characters. The Chosen One, Mac Trilla, and the Africa's Deadliest, the Man Animal. And the Man Animal's avatar is Kamala, and it cracks me up. So whatever I write for him or include him, I make him just a complete wild man.
Nice.
We actually had the Global's greatest results are in there. And so, of course, the Man Animal has got to be wild. So yeah, good stuff.
Now I'm looking at the report. Is that supposed to be Valinaria right there next to them?
Yeah, in his trash talk, he's got a picture of Valinaria. Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, he does a good job with that. We collaborated on a couple, and he asked for a picture so that he could include it. So I appreciate Valen being included there. And actually, they were on the cover of the Cycle 20 report. Valen was on the cover with joining Noble House.
Nice.
I have mixed feelings about putting my own guys on the cover. I feel very uh, self-rewarding or whatever the word you might use is. So I really try to avoid it whenever possible, but I thought the chance to put Noble House on.
I mean, for as much as we do, I mean, every now and then it's not that bad. I mean, come on. I mean, it's
right. Valen had actually never been on the cover. And so when you figure that there's only 24 wrestlers in the UNL, that he hadn't been on the cover 21 cycles in.
He was due.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, good stuff. I'm a huge Noble House fan, so any chance you get to interact with those guys is good.
Now, speaking of Noble House, looks like they got some trouble coming from Native Warrior. Native Warrior looks to be going after them.
Yeah, that's actually my other character. So if I can back this up just a little, my other character Naul is teaming with the Quebec Hitman and the Russian Reaper, and so they've been teaming up for a long time. And then Valen was trying to team up with Noble House, but then all of a sudden the Quebec Hitman and the Reaper were feuding with Noble House, and I go, that's not good. Because my two guys are split into those two groups. And I'm like, well, okay.
Here goes. Here goes.
I'll feud with myself. That's cool. Naul is kind of siding with the Quick Kill Inc., Quebec Hitman. And if I can talk about him for a moment, the manager for the Quebec Hitman, RMP, and the Russian Reaper runs two wrestlers in the IWA.
Nice.
And this year alone, these two wrestlers are his only two wrestlers. And this year alone, he's hit four 5/16s. He's got IWA World Tag and IWA US Tag, only running those two wrestlers. And I thought I was doing okay at tag and 6-man, and then he just comes along and just wipes the floor with me. And I'm like, dude, what is your strategy? You know, how do you flow that? It just amazes me. You know, we have people running very large rosters, which is cool, whatever. But you have this guy running literally one tag team, and he's hitting 5/16s, and he's tag champs again this cycle, which actually won him $28 in credit, given the fact that we had all those cards this time. So $28 in credit for being tag team champions. So he's probably going to use that for a while.
Man, Scott, you're gonna laugh, man, because I kid you not, I have my little table that I do for my characters, and I literally just stick to the same moves, like the same numbers or whatever you call it, the same
like hold set.
Yeah, the same hold set until it hits.
It's going to hit eventually.
Yeah, I'm you know what? It's the worst way to play the lotto, but you know, it's I'm that I care more about the trash talk that the numbers. I can't give myself a headache with the numbers, so I'm just kind of like I have my little table and I have my little way to flow my stats, and I'm happy with it, and I'm just kind of like if it hits, it hits. If it doesn't, I'll write around it.
Right. Well, and that is the nice part about, whether you're doing well or not doing well. I have a character in another league where hit this horrible rut, like 4 or 5 cycles, and you just write it in, right? You write it as part of your story. And so then instead of sucking it up with your 489 for 5 cycles, now you've made a story out of it and some good has come from it, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, you like you said you take that negative and just use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I think that's one of the things in terms of like I mean using I mean I guess that's what do they consider breaking the fourth, you
Yeah.
know, and I don't mind using the numbers if it's like because they use it in other leagues, where hey I got a 501, and I've mentioned this before on other episodes where you know I don't mind mentioning you get a 501, but I just kind of see it as like you remember the old college uh, what was that system, the BCS.
Oh yeah. Right. With the scoring.
Yeah, with the way the scoring. So I just kind of see it as if if you want to mention 501, like you got hey he got a 501. I just see it as a high BCS number. Like hey, you know what? Amongst the rankings, amongst the fans, his he sells well, or he that's when I hear numbers, people using the numbers. That's my way of kind of that's the way I use it in my trash talk.
Yeah. No, that's good. I hadn't quite heard it that way, and I try and avoid including 499, 500, 501 in any of my stuff. I just focus on what in league titles you're competing for or winning, what commissioner titles you're competing for and winning. That's kind of how I would relate myself. If I had a 500 and I won, some title, that's how I would play that. But again, to each their own.
Yeah, I mean, I hear some managers like to use it. Some managers, avoid. I mean, I try to avoid it. I really like unless I'm using it as like a graphic to just splash on there somewhere. But in terms of with my trash talk, I generally stay away from it. But
Yeah.
when I do see it, that's what kind of rolls through the back of my head.
Yeah. No, that's a good way to put it.
Now, as we move forward with this, Scott, I mean, I do want to get some more of these characters, highlighted and
Yeah, sure.
brought onto our stage. Now, but I also want to keep these shows, nice and relative. And I know we're running right around that hour mark already, man. We could like I think we talked right before we got on. We could probably go the whole night and not have enough time.
Right. I know I could talk about IWA all night. No problem.
But I think we got a good start with what we want to do here on the Interfed. Like I said, I do want to bring some more of these characters, into our light and get those managers their fair dues. And like I said,
Yeah, sure.
I do appreciate you coming on. Like I said, hopefully we can get a couple more of these shows moving forward, and bring the LNL and the UNL characters into some spotlights.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I had a good time. I appreciate the invite.
Definitely. Again, you've been listening to the voice of Scott, commissioner of the LNL and the UNL, and myself, IWA Flip. Thanks for listening. Till next time, goodbye.